Overheard my fiancée live compare our sex life to her ex, began distancing myself from our relationship, and now we're unraveling our engagement. We had a group of friends over one night, and as the evening wore on, everyone naturally broke off into smaller groups. Some of us gathered in one room for a raucous game of Texas Hold'em, while a couple of others settled in to binge through a Lord of the Rings marathon. I had assumed my fiancée was among the movie crowd, but as it turned out, she and one of her close friends were sitting together in the kitchen, sipping coffee and getting deep into conversation. Our table had run out of soda, so I decided to make a trip to the kitchen to grab some drinks and snacks for everyone. As I rounded the corner, my fiancée's voice floated through the doorway, loud and clear. Before I even entered the room, I distinctly heard her say, "Jason is great, but he will never be the lover that Bill was." As if that wasn't enough, she added with a sigh, "It's not really fair to Jason, though. Bill was just really gifted down there." At first, I seriously considered just turning back, pretending there wasn't any more soda, and returning to my game. But instead, I decided to make my presence known with a little noise as I walked in. Her friend caught a glimpse of me and made a face to alert my fiancé that I'd entered. My fiancé didn't have a clue that I'd overheard their conversation. She just stopped talking and asked me how I was doing, if I was having fun. As tempted as I was to fire back with a sarcastic, "I'm having as much fun as someone who's not gifted down there can," I bit my tongue. I just gave a simple yes, gathered up my drinks and snacks, and finished out the evening as if nothing had happened. But inside, I was reeling. I went to bed that night completely wrecked. I've never been a particularly jealous person, or even really insecure about myself, until that moment. Lying there, I cycled through every emotion imaginable. First anger, then humiliation, then depression, and back around to anger again. I get it, most people think the male ego is silly or even pathetic, women especially, and probably self-assured guys too. Before that night, I would have agreed with them, but once that ego is bruised, damn, it's hard to shake. I tried desperately to hide any trace of emotion about the whole thing. I didn't want her to know just how much I'd been gutted, but the days ticked by and it just ate away at me more and more. I started to avoid her as much as possible, trying to keep my distance. I know she grew suspicious, but she didn't press me about it, at least, not until she tried to initiate sex a few days later. When I rejected her, it wasn't even a conscious choice on my part. I had already decided to suck it up and move forward, but when the moment came, I felt nothing but deep inadequacy and shame. No matter how much either of us tried, nothing was happening. She asked me what was wrong, and I spat out some weak excuse about work stress. She didn't believe a word of it. She wouldn't let it go, either. So there I was, lying naked beside her, totally humiliated and unable to get an erection. That's when I admitted what I'd overheard her say. She absolutely did not take this well. At first, she tried to claim that I must have misunderstood. But I repeated her words back to her, exactly as she'd said them. She couldn't deny it after that, so she switched to apologizing, and to her credit, she listened to what I had to say, though, in my crumpled emotional state, I doubt I made myself particularly attractive. She tried to reassure me, insisted I was the better man, that I satisfied her, that she didn't want anyone else. But in that moment, I couldn't hear a word she said. To me, it was all just the muted drone of Charlie Brown's teacher. Nearly a month has passed, and I still have zero desire to be with her sexually, none. She's growing frustrated about it too, but nothing I've tried helps me move past it. It's not as if she'd said we were both good lovers or anything. She outright claimed he was far superior, and the way she said gifted down there makes me think Bill was much bigger than me, too. Yeah, I know I can do all sorts of things with my hands, with my tongue, whatever. But there's nothing I can do to change what nature gave me. She won't discuss it with me, says that anything she says now will just make it worse, and even if she said something positive, I probably wouldn't believe her. She's probably right. There's more to this, a history. Bill dumped her, she didn't leave him. Early on in our relationship, she was clear that she wasn't ready to be serious because her previous ex, Bill, left her and broke her heart. If he hadn't dumped her, she would never have walked away. Now, I can't say I believe she'd leave me if he ever came back, but the facts are what they are. Right now, I just feel myself checking out of this relationship. I know it's petty, but hearing the love of your life tell someone else they preferred sex with another man is just shattering. Every time she tries to point out my other good qualities, I feel even worse. Saying I'm a good provider, I'll make a great husband, none of it helps, it just makes me feel like a consolation prize. What if I lost my job, or got injured and couldn't make money anymore? Would she be there for me? At this point, I just feel like some really good friend who she let sleep with her, not her lover, not her equal. I know logically this isn't true, but my heart can't believe it. I don't know where to go from here. If things keep going this way, I might just end up breaking off our engagement, no matter how bitter that feels. Honestly, I'm lost. Before I wrote all of this down, the thing that rattled me most wasn't even what she'd said to her friend. I was honestly more upset that she felt this way at all. But now, after looping the whole thing over and over in my head, I'm actually starting to get aggravated that she shared something so personal about me with a friend. I could never imagine saying anything about her that would make someone see her in a worse light. I know people might think I'm just being an insecure man-child, and maybe I am, at least the insecure part. But as for manning up and making it all better, there's just some things I can never change about myself. No matter how hard I try or what I do, I can't change the fact that I'm only 7 inches long. We've even talked about it, back when she was trying to reassure me, telling me I was great at everything except for the one thing I can't control. Alright, fine, maybe I've been rounding up a bit for my own confidence, and no, I'm not about to do anything drastic or impulsive. It's already been a month. This isn't some fresh wound, but it's not fair to either of us if I just coast through or stay in this relationship half-hearted. So something has to give, soon. She keeps saying she's sorry that I heard what she said. She says she's sorry she ever said it at all, but deep down I know she wouldn't really be sorry if I'd never overheard her in the first place. It is what it is. I do think she regrets it now because she's been a mess ever since. She tells me that knowing I don't want to be with her is tearing her apart. How much I believe that, I'm not sure, but I can't see any reason she'd lie about that. One thing I do know, this has completely destroyed any Christmas spirit we had. The season's been a wreck. People have asked about my job, I'm an engineer. She's a paralegal. When it comes to her ex, so many people have questions about that too. I'll tell you what I know. We met about 9 months after they broke up. He'd wanted to be with someone else, she told me, though she insists he never cheated. He just ended things clean to pursue the new woman. She approached me at a workshop, and we started dating. By our 4th date, things were getting physical when she suddenly broke down crying about her ex. Nothing prepares you for comforting someone while they cry about another man, but that's exactly what I did. For the next couple of months, we dated on and off, nothing serious physically, because it was painfully clear she wasn't over him. We just went on dates, and I kept telling myself we were just friends since I didn't want to get too invested either. Then after about 2 months, she pretty much dragged me from my car up to her apartment and told me how much she appreciated my patience, how she felt foolish for stringing me along so long. That became our first night together. 3 months later, she told me she loved me. But it couldn't be more obvious, she was still hung up on her ex when we started out together. By the time this happened, I had honestly thought, maybe hoped, she was finally over him. Everything came to a head last night. She came right out and asked me if I didn't love her anymore. All I could say was that a huge part of me still did, but after what she said, another part just didn't. That opened up a bigger, messier conversation I'll spare you the details of, but it boiled down to this: if she'd told me her ex was just more attentive, or better at something in bed that I could improve, I would have tried to work on it. I'd listen, learn, improve, anything she wanted. But knowing I could never measure up simply because of something physical I can't change, I don't think I'll ever get over that. If it had been some random one-night stand or just a guy who was, I don't know, ridiculously well endowed, maybe I could get past it. But the fact that it's someone she was still in love with when we met, someone I could never beat in this one fundamental way, was just too much for me. She keeps telling me that I'm better at everything else, and that I shouldn't throw away our whole future over this single thing. But for me, this one thing just carries too much weight. Maybe that's my failing, mentally, emotionally, but it doesn't change the fact that I needed to be the best for my partner, and now I know I never can be. I tried to be gentle. I even tried to shoulder all the blame. I know my outlook on this probably isn't healthy, but it's who I am. And, for the record, this wasn't some neat, rational conversation. There was crying, a lot of it, from both of us. There's no happy ending here. No tidy wrap-up or life lesson. I am thoroughly messed up over all of this. Christmas is absolutely ruined. We'd both been planning to go to big family gatherings together, and now we have to figure out how to tell our families what happened. My parents loved her. What the hell am I supposed to say? She didn't cheat, and if I claim she's still hung up on her ex, she'll deny it and might end up telling my parents the hard truth. The whole breakup is a disaster, no matter which way it goes. All I feel now is failure. Failure as a man, being compared unfavorably to someone else. Failure because I can't just get over it, or man up. She's begged me to go to couples counseling. Initially, I refused. What's the point? We can talk it to death, but at the end of the day, the woman I want to marry already told someone else I'll never be as good as her ex. I can't imagine ever being okay with that, even years down the line. But she's genuinely heartbroken, and because she means so much to me, I agreed to try counseling. Doesn't mean I'll stick with it forever. I spent today moving most of my things out, staying with a coworker until I find my own place. She's been at her sister's all day. I feel absolutely wrecked. There's a huge part of me that wants to call her, to try to turn all of this around, to beg her to come back. But what would it solve? After posting this, I just had to get out. I went to see Mortal Engines with my friend, grabbed dinner, spent hours talking. Even with all of that, my mind keeps looping back to this mess. When I sat down with her for that long, draining conversation, I knew I needed to pose the situation in a way that would resonate. She's never put much stock in comparisons of body parts or sexual skill the way I do. If the tables were turned, that sort of thing just wouldn't hurt her the way it did me. So I crafted a scenario for her to consider. I asked, imagine you walk in and overhear me talking with my friend Tim. You hear me say, Jill is great, but she'll never understand me and comfort me the way Tiffany did. But it's not Jill's fault. Tiffany is just the smartest, most compassionate person I've ever known, and Jill just isn't as smart. Then I told her that, if she confronted me about those comments, my answer would be, I love you for all your other qualities. Nobody makes a sandwich like you do, and I think long term you won't judge me for my money. At first, she insisted that what she'd said and what I was describing were completely different issues, but after hashing it out, we reached a point where she finally acknowledged there was a similarity in how painful those comments can be. It came down to how differently we both approached and valued sex. Eventually, she admitted that if those words had come from me, it would really hurt her feelings, though she said she wouldn't break up with me over it. I told her in my hypothetical, not that I'd ever say something so cruel to anyone I loved, at least she could work on her education and learn to be more compassionate if she wanted. But what she'd left me with was something I couldn't change, no matter what I did. If anyone cares enough to read these thoughts, I want to set something straight. I've been called every flavor of whiner and weakling out there, basically because I couldn't get over the fact that someone else out in the world had a bigger D than me. Trust me, I'm not deluding myself into thinking I'm some legend in bed, but I did spend years believing the lie that women don't care about size. Some truly don't, and I wish I'd ended up with one of them, but my ex wasn't in that group. Even then, I probably could have moved forward if it had been a passing admission, just a statement of fact. What haunted me, and has haunted me since, was the idea that no matter how much I loved her, no matter what else I did, I was never going to be good enough for her. Yes, size played a huge part, but if she hadn't said I'd never measure up as a lover, I might have made peace with it. Well, maybe not peace, but at least it wouldn't have killed the relationship the way it did. The truth is, I probably put too much value in sex, I know that. But it's important to me. And if I'm honest, I want to feel as wanted as I want someone. If that makes sense. I get that whoever I date next will have had partners before me, some bigger, some better, whatever. I just hope whoever I end up with won't still be hung up on that fact years later. It wasn't my plan to keep reliving all this, but people kept checking in and asking how things were going. It's over. That's the simple fact. We went to couples counseling 3 times and I tried, really tried, to keep my mind open about it. In the end, though, the same wall remained between us, too high to climb. I handed her multiple chances to walk it back, to rephrase, to give me something I could work with. But instead, she doubled down. Honestly, by then, I think both of us were too frustrated and tired. Neither of us wanted this ending, but that's where we landed. Ending the relationship has been a nightmare in its own right. Telling family and friends is a whole war unto itself. I tried the "it's none of your business" line, but people weren't satisfied. Because I wouldn't give details, rumors started flying, some even said she cheated on me, and then that nonsense started spreading. I've been running triage ever since, trying to tamp down that wildfire. Now, I'm sticking with therapy on my own. I have too. I'm not going to pretend, this whole experience has been brutal, and it shredded whatever self-esteem I had left. I'm just hoping, somewhere down the line, I can find my way back to feeling good about myself again. Update 1. So much has happened since my last post that I honestly don't know where to begin. I guess I'll start with the obvious, the therapy has been helping, slowly. My therapist keeps telling me that healing isn't linear, and boy was she right about that. About 3 weeks ago, I was finally starting to feel like maybe I could see light at the end of this tunnel. I'd been going out more, even went on a couple casual dates through a dating app, nothing serious, just trying to remember what it felt like to connect with someone new. For the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about Jill or Bill or any of that mess every waking moment. Then last Tuesday happened. I was grabbing lunch at this sandwich place near my office when I spotted a familiar face across the room. It was Tim, Jill's friend who'd been there that night when everything went to hell. We made eye contact, and he walked over. After some awkward small talk, he asked if we could sit down because he had something he needed to tell me. Apparently, about 2 weeks after Jill and I broke up, she'd reached out to Bill. Tim only knew because Jill had confided in his girlfriend Sarah, who then told him. According to what he heard, Jill was confused and needed closure after everything that happened with us. Here's where it gets messy. Bill had apparently gotten engaged to that woman he'd left Jill for, but things weren't going well. When Jill contacted him, he was already having doubts about his engagement. One thing led to another, and they ended up sleeping together. Tim said Sarah was furious with Jill about it, called it a rebound mistake. But then he dropped the real bombshell, it wasn't just once. They'd been seeing each other regularly for the past month. I sat there in that sandwich shop feeling like I'd been punched in the gut all over again. Part of me wanted to be angry, to feel vindicated that I was right about her never being over him. But mostly I just felt empty, like all that progress I thought I'd made just evaporated. The worst part? Tim felt guilty for telling me, but he said he couldn't stand watching me blame myself anymore when she was already halfway back to him before you guys even broke up. I don't know if I believe that last part, but it definitely explained why she seemed so quick to give up on couples counseling. I've been wrestling with this information for a week now. My first instinct was to call her, to confront her about it, but what would be the point? We're broken up. She can do whatever she wants. And honestly, it just confirms what I already suspected deep down. The really messed up part is that I'm not even sure I'm hurt about her being with him again. I think I'm more hurt that she probably never fought as hard to save our relationship as I thought she was. All those tears, all the begging for couples counseling, Was that real, or was she already planning her exit strategy? My therapist says this is actually good news in a twisted way. That having this information might help me stop romanticizing what we had and start seeing the relationship for what it really was. She's probably right, but it doesn't make it suck any less. The timing is just cruel too. I'd finally started sleeping through the night again, finally stopped checking her social media every day. Now I'm back to square one, wondering if she's with him right now, wondering if she's comparing us again, wondering if she's happier. I know I shouldn't care. I know I need to focus on moving forward. But knowing that she's probably getting exactly what she wanted all along, him, while I'm still here picking up the pieces just feels like salt in the wound. I haven't told anyone else about this yet. Not my parents, not my coworker I'm staying with. I'm not even sure why I'm posting it here except that writing it down sometimes helps me process things. I guess the silver lining, if you can call it that, is that now I know for certain I made the right choice. If she was this quick to run back to him, then she really wasn't as committed to us as she claimed to be. Doesn't make it hurt any less, but at least I'm not wondering what if anymore. Still feels like I'm back at rock bottom though. Update 2. I thought I was done writing about this mess, but life apparently had other plans. It's been 6 weeks since Tim dropped that bomb on me about Jill and Bill, and I've been doing better. Not great, but better. My therapist was right about the information helping me move on. Knowing she ran straight back to him actually made it easier to stop second-guessing myself. Then 3 days ago, my phone rang at 11:30 p.m. Jill's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer, we hadn't spoken since our last counseling session. But something made me pick up. She was crying. Hard, could barely get the words out at first. When she finally calmed down enough to speak, she told me Bill had called off his engagement and asked her to move in with him. She'd said yes, packed up her apartment, and moved in 2 weeks ago. Here's the kicker, she found out he'd been cheating on her the entire time they'd been reconnecting. Not with his ex-fiancée. With someone completely different. A coworker from his job. Jill discovered text messages on his phone while he was in the shower. Apparently he'd been telling this other woman the same things he'd been telling Jill, that he was finally ready to settle down, that she was the one, all of it. When Jill confronted him, he didn't even deny it. Just shrugged and said he wasn't ready to be exclusive yet and that she was moving too fast. Then he told her she needed to find somewhere else to stay because the other woman was coming over the next day. So there she was, calling me at nearly midnight, homeless and heartbroken, asking if she could crash on my couch for a few days until she figured things out. I said no. I'm not proud of how good it felt to say that word, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel like some kind of cosmic justice. She begged. Reminded me that we'd been together for over 2 years, that she had nowhere else to go, that her sister was out of town. I told her she could call a hotel, or Tim's girlfriend Sarah, or literally anyone else. But not me. Not after everything. She got quiet for a long time. Then she said something that's been eating at me ever since. You were right. About everything. He never loved me the way you did. I threw away the best thing in my life for someone who never gave a damn about me. I hung up. The next morning, I felt terrible. Whatever she'd done, whatever mistakes she'd made, she was still someone I'd loved, someone I'd planned to marry. And she was genuinely in trouble. But then I remembered sitting in that sandwich shop, hearing about how she'd been seeing Bill behind my back while we were still in counseling. I remembered all those nights I spent wondering what was wrong with me, why I wasn't enough. And I felt less terrible about it. Yesterday, Sarah reached out to me. Apparently Jill had been staying with them for the past couple of days, and it's been awkward because Sarah is still angry about the whole Bill situation. But she wanted to let me know that Jill had been asking about me constantly, wanting to know if I was seeing anyone, if I seemed happy, if I ever talked about her. Sarah also told me something I didn't know. Apparently, during those last few weeks before our breakup, Jill had been emotionally cheating with Bill for longer than anyone realized. They'd been texting constantly, having long phone calls when I wasn't around. Sarah said she'd tried to talk Jill out of it, told her she was sabotaging a good thing, but Jill wouldn't listen. The part that really got to me was when Sarah said Jill had admitted that even during our couples counseling sessions, she was already mentally checked out. She was just going through the motions because she felt guilty, but her heart was already with Bill. I don't know why Sarah told me all this. Maybe she felt bad about keeping secrets, or maybe she wanted me to know that my instincts were right all along. Either way, it confirmed what I'd suspected. Our relationship was over long before the conversation in the kitchen. I was just the last one to know. The strangest part is how I feel about all of this. I thought I'd feel vindicated, or angry, or something. Instead, I mostly feel relieved? Like a weight I didn't even realize I was carrying has been lifted. For months I'd been questioning myself, wondering if I was too sensitive, too insecure, too quick to give up on something good. Now I know the truth. She never fought for us because she was already fighting for someone else. And the man she chose over me turned out to be exactly the kind of person who would do to her what she'd done to me. My therapist says this is closure, even if it doesn't feel like the kind of closure you see in movies. Sometimes closure isn't a neat conversation where everyone apologizes and moves on. Sometimes it's just finally having enough information to stop wondering what if. I've been thinking about that phone call a lot. About the desperation in her voice, about how quickly her fairy tale reunion crumbled. There's a part of me that feels sorry for her. Nobody deserves to be used and discarded like that. But there's a bigger part of me that's just grateful I'm not still in that relationship, still competing with a ghost, still wondering if I'd ever be enough. I'm not saying I'm completely over it. I still have bad days. I still catch myself wondering what she's doing, if she's okay. But for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I'm looking forward instead of backward. And honestly, I'm proud of myself for saying no when she called. The old me, the me from 6 months ago, would have dropped everything to help her. Would have convinced myself that this was my chance to be the hero, to prove I was the better man. But I'm learning that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone, and for yourself, is to let them face the consequences of their choices alone. She made her bed. Now she gets to lie in it. Just not in mine.